Ever feel like you need a secret decoder ring just to get through the first few pages of a classic? Like War and Peace? It can feel that way, right? Especially with those Russian names.
Yeah.
But don't worry. We're going to crack the code today and, equip you to navigate Tolstoy's world with, total confidence.
And what's fascinating about this is how much we can unpack about a society.
Yeah.
Just from, those seeming minor details.
Oh, okay.
How they address each other, their customs, even their gossip.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We are diving into excerpts from War and Peace itself.
Yeah.
Plus, we've got some really insightful literary analysis to go along with it.
Right.
And since this is a deep dive, we're not just skimming the surface here.
Absolutely not. We are going deeper. We're going to look at how Tolstoy uses something as simple as a name to hint at power dynamics, family secrets, even a character's deepest desires.
So it's not just about understanding the words, it's about understanding what those words, reveal.
Precisely.
See, this is already blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And speaking of revealing, I think before we even open the book, it's worth spending just a minute on Tolstoy himself.
Sure.
Because he wasn't just some stuffy old author.
Not at all. In fact, knowing a bit about his life makes War and Peace even more interesting.
Yeah, did you know that he actually served in the Crimean War?
Yeah.
That's hardcore. No wonder the battle scenes feel so real.
And it's not just the battle scenes, though. Tolstoy drew heavily from his own experiences, his understanding of conflict, both on a grand scale and then, within ourselves. This wasn't just theoretical for him. He'd lived it.
Okay, so that explains the war part. But then there's this whole other side to Tolstoy, right?
Right.
The peace part, where, he has all this success early on.
Yeah.
But then still goes through this intense, spiritual crisis later in life.
He did. And that tension, that search for meaning, amidst the complexities of life, it echoes through his characters.
It's like he's saying, hey, even when you've got it all figured out,
right,
life will throw you curveballs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something we'll see reflected in the excerpts you've gathered, especially in how characters navigate the social world.
Which brings us to, I think, the first hurdle that many readers face, those Russian names.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've definitely stumbled over them a few times myself.
They can be daunting. But think of them like a code that Tolstoy embedded within the text. And once you crack that code, it unlocks a whole new layer of meaning.
Okay, you're the expert. Break it down for us. What is the key to decoding these names?
Well, unlike English, where we just have a first and last name, Russians have a three-part system. You have the given name, then the patronymic, and finally the family name or surname.
Okay, so far so good. But what's a patronymic?
It essentially means son of or daughter of.
Okay.
So when you see a name like Anna Mikhailovna, which we encounter in the excerpt, it's not just a long, fancy name. Anna is her given name, and Mikhailovna tells us she's the daughter of someone named Mikhail.
Okay, so it's like a built-in family tree.
Exactly.
Every time someone's introduced.
And you'll notice characters often address each other using both the given name and patronymic.
Huh.
It's a constant reminder of their lineage, their connection to their father.
Now, why does this even matter? It's just how they say their names.
It's much more than that. It reflects the social dynamics of their world, where family ties and lineage were incredibly important. Imagine it as a subtle way Tolstoy reminds us of the weight each character carries, their connection to the past.
So it's not just trivia, it's context.
Yes.
It tells us something about the rules of this world.
Exactly.
And in the excerpts, we see this play out, right?
Yeah.
With Count Bezikov being called Kirill Vladimirovich.
Absolutely. Kirill is his given name, Vladimirovich, indicating his father was Vladimir. Now, imagine you're meeting him for the first time, hearing that name. Immediately, you're placed within a web of relationships, a history you might not even know yet. But it's there, coloring your perception of him.
This is already making those names feel less intimidating and more clues. I'm suddenly dying to know more about this Vladimir character and how he shaped his son.
That's precisely the effect Tolstoy was going for.
So armed with this knowledge about how names function, let's see how Tolstoy uses them to kind of reveal the hidden tensions within the social interactions he's so famous for depicting.
Yes.
Because even when I understand the words themselves, war and peace, just feels like it takes place in this completely different world, with a completely different set of social rules.
Absolutely. And those rules, they can make even the most straightforward conversation feel like a strategic game of chess.
And the excerpts that you sent over, they really give us a front row seat to this world, right?
They do.
Particularly like the world of Russian high society.
Yeah, and it's a world where appearances are everything, and gossip is like the most valuable currency.
Okay, so let's talk about that gossip a little bit. There's that part in the excerpts about Pierre's behavior
Yeah,
at Anna Pavlovna's reception.
right. It's a perfect example of how quickly information travels in this world.
Right.
You know, one faux pas.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Pierre's reputation is on everyone's lips.
It's like social media,
Exactly.
but in the 19th century,
Yeah,
everyone's talking about it.
exactly. And Tolstoy makes it very clear this isn't just idle chatter. Like, reputations are made or broken in these salons.
Wow.
Marriages hinge on the whispers exchanged over tea and pastries.
So beneath the surface of all these like fancy dinners and these polite conversations, there's this undercurrent of, I don't know, is it anxiety, competition? What's going on?
Absolutely. And this is where Tolstoy's genius for social observation really shines through.
Okay.
He shows us how deeply intertwined these things are with the social maneuvering and, let's be honest, social climbing that goes on.
Yeah, like with Anna Pavlovna herself, the way she orchestrates these introductions.
Right.
Remember how she introduces the Vicomte?
Like a well-garnished joint of roast beef, as Tolstoy so aptly puts it. He doesn't miss a beat.
It's hilarious and a little bit appalling at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect illustration of how in this world, people are often treated as, commodities.
Yeah.
Anna Pavlovna is not interested in the Vicomte as a person, only in how his presence reflects on her.
Right, and then you've got Prince Vasily, always scheming, pulling strings in the background.
He's a master manipulator,
Yeah.
constantly strategizing, especially when it comes to his children's futures. He sees advantageous marriages as like the ultimate power move.
Which brings us to, I think, another huge theme in War and Peace, right? The pressure on these characters to find the right match.
It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Think about Prince Andrew and the expectations surrounding his potential marriage.
Yeah.
Or how Pierre, as this newly wealthy bachelor, suddenly becomes the most eligible and vulnerable target in their social circle.
It's like everyone is playing this high-stakes game of matchmaking,
Right.
but the players don't always realize the rules are rigged against them.
Especially the women.
Right.
They're often seen as pawns in this game, valued for their beauty, their connections, their dowries.
Like Helena Karina with
Yes.
her carefully calculated beauty.
Precisely. She understands the game,
Yeah.
how to use her appearance to her advantage.
It's kind of heartbreaking, honestly, to think about these characters
Yeah.
and how, like, their lives are kind of dictated by these social expectations.
Right.
But then that's what makes Tolstoy such a brilliant writer, right?
Right.
He doesn't shy away from these, like, uncomfortable realities.
Exactly. He presents them with unflinching clarity, exposing the hypocrisy, the vulnerabilities, the very human desires beneath the surface of this seemingly polished world. And he does it all through these incredibly vivid, detailed scenes.
Which is what makes this whole deep dive, honestly, so rewarding.
Yeah.
Once you start noticing these details, the way characters address each other, like the subtle digs hidden in polite conversation,
Right.
it's like a whole new world opens up.
And Tolstoy gives us another clue,
Okay.
another layer of meaning to unlock
Okay.
through the way he uses names.
You're talking about those patronymics again?
Exactly. Remember how I said they highlight those power dynamics? It's not just about family ties. Pay attention to who uses patronymics and when.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a sign of respect. Sometimes it's a subtle assertion of dominance.
Oh, wow. So even within that, like, three-part name system, there are all these other, like, layers of meaning.
Exactly. And it's through those layers that Tolstoy reveals the nuances of their relationships, the unspoken tensions simmering beneath the surface.
Okay, this is incredible. So it's not just what characters say to each other, it's how they say it.
Exactly.
Even down to, like, the names they use.
Precisely. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Remember when we talked about Tolstoy's own life experiences?
You mean how he lived through the Crimean War, his own, like, spiritual struggles?
Yes. He brings that understanding of human nature, that awareness of the inner conflicts we all face,
Yeah.
to his portrayal of these characters.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces kind of fit together. It's like we're building this puzzle, and the deeper we dive, the clearer the picture becomes.
Exactly. And as you continue exploring War and Peace, remember, those names aren't just there for show. They're carefully chosen tools,
Right.
revealing the characters' histories, their motivations, even their hidden vulnerabilities.
It's like Tolstoy is giving us a crash course in, like, reading between the lines.
And once you learn to read like that, War and Peace becomes more than just a story. It becomes a reflection on human nature itself.
It's like he's saying, like, don't be fooled by all the glitter and the fancy titles. There's this whole other layer of, well, reality going on beneath the surface.
Yeah, and that's where his mastery lies. Because Tolstoy doesn't just tell us about these characters, he places us right there in the drawing room with them. We hear their conversations, we observe their subtle gestures.
And most importantly, we get to eavesdrop on their thoughts, which is amazing.
Yes.
Like that description of Prince Vasily manipulating Pierre. Oh, it's almost painful to watch.
It's a masterclass in manipulation. Tolstoy lays bare Prince Vasily's tactics, the flattery, the vague promises, even the way he uses Helene's beauty as like a tool to influence Pierre.
Makes you wonder how much of what we see in those gilded drawing rooms is, you know, genuine and how much is just performance.
That's the question Tolstoy keeps circling back to.
Yeah.
He's constantly peeling back the layers of artifice and social convention to expose the raw human desires, underneath.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to society, showing us like the beauty and the ugliness often at the same time.
And by understanding the codes of this society, the importance of reputation, the subtle ways that power is wielded, we as readers can become more astute observers, just like Tolstoy wants us to be.
He's given us the tools to like decode this world, to see through those like carefully constructed facades.
Precisely. And I can't emphasize this enough. Pay attention to the seemingly insignificant details.
Okay.
The offhand remarks, the way someone hesitates before speaking,
Mm-hmm.
even like the objects they choose to surround themselves with.
Those details, they're not just there for decoration, they all serve a purpose.
Exactly. They reveal character, motivation, even like foreshadow events to come. Tolstoy was a master of using detail to create a world so rich and textured, it feels incredibly real.
This deep dive has honestly changed how I think about War and Peace. Like, I'm ready to go back and reread those excerpts and like look for all those hidden clues I know are there.
And that's the beauty of Tolstoy. There's always something new to discover, even within like a single sentence. Every time you return to War and Peace, it's like encountering a different book, a deeper conversation.
Well, it's been an amazing journey through the world of War and Peace. And don't worry, this isn't our last deep dive into Tolstoy's masterpiece. There are so many more layers to uncover, so many more secrets to reveal. But until then,
keep those decoder rings handy. And remember, the real story often lies between the lines.
So until next time, happy reading, everyone.